We be ready.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't get the memo about the, what color is that?
About the thing.
About the shirt color thing.
Technically, what color would this be? And is this the exact?
It's not mustard. It's not yellow. It's not brown.
We somehow are wearing similar clothing today. I don't know what happened.
Yellowish tan.
Mm.
Just caramel.
Well, this is the cool thing about Viore. Number one, Mark, touch my shirt. You feel how soft that is?
It's that strato.
Yeah.
It's soft on the outside, but so hard underneath. Wow. Are you hard like this everywhere?
That's the Viore, actually. But no, seriously, guys, this right here, it's my and Andrew's favorite t-shirt. It's called the Stratotech Tee from Viore.com. And if you guys want to check it out, along with all their other clothing, I'm also wearing Viore pants.
Oh my goodness.
These are called the Rich Stop pants from Viore. They're also very comfortable. And he also gave me a butt slap right there. Thank you.
Oddly aroused.
Ooh.
Nice.
Looking good,
nice,
buddy. Thick booty.
Thank you.
He's got a lot of junk.
Yeah. But no, seriously, this is like this gym, these clothes, I almost feel bad wearing them in the gym because they look so good, but they're supposed to be used for working out.
What size shirt is that?
This is a 2X. I have this same shirt in an XL too because I like this shirt so much. I have a 2X and I have an XL.
Filling it out pretty good, bro. Gotta admit.
Yeah.
I have a gray version of that on under, but I'm cold, so I'm not gonna pull it out right now.
Not gonna whip it out.
Yeah, but I also don't look the same on a shirt that's supposed to fit me, so I'll just keep that hidden for now.
Yeah.
But it is comfortable, and I do like wearing it everywhere else.
You can wear it to dinner,
including the gym. But yeah, no, this clothes is phenomenal. When Mark was explaining it, like I think sometime late last year, early this year, about just like you feel like $1 million when you wear this stuff.
Yes.
Like it, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But like, no, dude, you actually do feel really good, like because it looks good, it fits good. And it just, dude, it's awesome.
They got a lot of different types of clothes too. Like Nsima's wearing a little bit more of what's like a cottony kind of sports shirt that's got some good stretch to it. Yeah. But they make some like mesh wicking Under Armour-ish type of shirts for people that dig that. So they got like a wide variety of shirts, tank tops, long sleeve. They got some long sleeve shirts that just it makes you look like you're all dressed up, and you ain't even trying. You're just in a long sleeve shirt,
and it doesn't break the bank.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's another big factor. And the pants are nice. They have like kind of pants that you could wear, if you're going out somewhere, or pants that you can wear like if you're training. You got a good wide variety, and then the stuff on top of that is kind of like universal. Make you look good anywhere you go.
Yeah, so the amazing clothes that won't break the bank, but will make it even easier for you because when you head over to VUORI.com/power project, so VUORI.com/power project, you guys will receive 20% off your first order. No code needed. Just hit the links down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. One more time because I need the practice. VUORI.com/power project. Again, links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Head over there ASAP.
They have a commercial on TV. I saw.
What? They did?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, the other day I was watching. I think I was watching some football.
Foosball.
Yeah, and they had a commercial on TV. I was like, damn,
that's sick. Were we in it?
It's like these guys are killing it.
Well, we should be.
Yeah, we definitely should be because we're phenomenal.
Yeah. Quick rundown on today's guest, Mark.
Yeah, who is today's guest? How do we say this guy's name?
Lucas Aoun. No, Lucas Aoun. I'm guessing. We'll ask him how to say it when he gets on, but I'm guessing it's Aoun.
Yeah, sounds good. I was checking out a lot of the stuff that he had on YouTube and his Instagram. And he's got tremendous information. Man, there was a lot that I was listening to this morning, and it's like he's talking about alternatives to like melatonin. He's talking about alternatives to NAC, which is a really popular supplement that more recently got banned by the FDA. He's talking about a lot of things, TUDCA for liver toxicity. He talked about sleeping on an incline and the impact that can have for people and some of the testimonials of people that sleep on an incline. And Andrew, you might find this interesting. Some people are finding that it helps relieve some back pain. sleep better. It's supposed to help with sleep apnea.
Anything for the brain? Because I remember aspirin back in the day. Maybe I'm misremembering, but he called it like a brainwash because it allowed like the fluid in your head to like literally wash out. Yeah.
That's the way they have you sleep in the hospital, I guess. Supposed to help aid in recovery. And I guess there's, a lot more to be learned about some of these things. I think the main thing to keep in mind when we're doing this show today is that all these things that we're going to mention, these are all just like, we're just kind of pulling some straws here. We're just grasping for straws. Like no one really truly knows like all these different things, but these are like anecdotal and researched information about how a particular supplement may help you burn fat a little bit faster. I just want to make it clear that like nothing is going to do the work for you. We're not there yet. You'll always have to train your ass off. You'll always have to have good habits. But how cool would it be to know that you could take things maybe in a systematic way that can make the good habits that you form easier? Fuck, man, that'd be great. Because if you're just in a good mood every day and you feel good every day, it's a lot easier to make great decisions. And that's why so much of this podcast is dedicated to talking about training and talking about nutrition and talking about sleep. Because we know if you have those three pillars intact, that it'll give you a better chance at staying connected to those good habits every day.
And one thing to remember too, whenever we have guests on like this, where we're talking about like biohacking or things that maybe they haven't been shown in the research, just remember that sometimes it takes clinical research a long time to catch up to what certain people are actually doing. So there might be stuff here that in the future is found out like not to be that useful, but there might be a lot of stuff that in the future is found out like, wow, they were onto something. So the thing is just don't always just say, oh, the research says this, or that hasn't been researched yet, because you don't always need the research to tell you something to try before you actually try it and see how beneficial it is for you. That's all we're saying. So just keep that in mind as we get into this episode, please.
As I was researching the stuff, I was just like, we've had a lot of great guests on the show. We listen to a lot of great people. There are people that have novel ideas and concepts. But for the most part, I know the guests that we're having on. I'm pretty aware of what they're going to share. And in this case, I have to admit that I was completely unaware of almost all the different stuff this guy's talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm like, oh, I heard that because I've been around for a long time. And I'm like, oh, that's what Dan Duchesne was talking about 30 years ago. Or that's what Charles Poliquin used to say. Or I heard that from Ian Danny. Or I've heard that from this guy or that guy. With some of this guy's information, I haven't heard a lot of these things before, and they're just small offshoots of some stuff that you may have heard before, but said in some slightly different ways. I love the fact that he's given alternatives to pharmaceutical medications, because I think pharmaceutical medications, while they do have tremendous ability to assist people, I think it's kind of intimidating for people to sometimes take a pharmaceutical, and they might be reluctant. He's just given over-the-counter herbs that he thinks can help in a similar way. So I think that's really cool. There he is.
Gents.
Here we are. Can you tell us how to say your name first, please?
Yeah, so it's Lucas.
What's your last name?
And then surname's Aoun.
Owen.
Yeah, it's spelt really weird.
Yeah.
I was wrong. Okay.
Great to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. You mind kind of kicking things off and telling us how you got started in all this? Because, when people talk about, investigating different supplements and investigating nutrition and sleep and all these things, they always refer to it as a rabbit hole, right? And I think that your YouTube channel is definitely that, because people are going to run into all kinds of things that they probably haven't heard of before. So how did you get into some of this, and how did you kind of come about finding things that you wouldn't normally find with a regular Google search?
Yeah. Well, first of all, gents, want to say, thanks for having me on the show. I've been watching all of your episodes. I love what you guys are doing. I guess my journey really started out my dad's a pharmacist, and so I had a lot of experience working in the pharmacy at a very young age. And I became the vitamin specialist very early on, and started reading labels. And then from there, I basically got involved in a nootropic startup where I had the opportunity to sort of formulate a nootropic stack. And back then, I used an ingredient that it then became the most popular ingredient in all pre-workout formulas, which was something called teacrine, which is like a caffeine derivative you guys might be aware of. And since then, like I sort of, I fell in love with the whole idea of biohacking. And then I transitioned and started studying naturopathy, which I've just completed my naturopathy degree. So I'm a fully qualified naturopath. I had the choice to go down the path of either becoming a pharmacist or a naturopath. So I would say I tend to leverage the power of both sides. I do like things that pharmaceutical medications can offer, but then also I love, the botanicals and ethnobotanicals and things like that.
Awesome, man. I think a great way to kick this show off is what everybody wants to hear about, and that's how do we improve sexual performance. I saw one of your videos talking about penis size and various things like that. So are there some supplements? Are there things that you've noticed in your recommendations that are things that can really be of good positive impact?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to penile size, there was one key hormone that I, started investigating and researching, and that was DHT. And you guys have spoken about it before, and the importance of DHT specifically in youth. So, when I was looking into various compounds that could, ramp up DHT production, I then fell in love with, there was a particular tradition. Well, I would say that somebody, I'm not the best candidate for that because
you're too large.
I managed to, because I maxed out my own testosterone naturally to 988, but then there was a particular device which you spoke about, Mark, which is the Phoenix.
The Phoenix?
Yeah, it was previously known as the Rocket. And so it's basically acoustic wave or shockwave therapy for the penis.
Shockwaves on your junk? You can't shock the penis back to health, can you?
Well, the premise behind it is that it causes micro damage to the actual blood vessels, and then it regenerates blood vessels and causes a process known as angiogenesis. So it can sort of help to revascularize the penis.
What about any supplements that you think might have some positive impact for men in terms of sexual performance?
So I'd say there are certain ones such as Cistanch. It's also known as Cistanch in your pants. That one there was actually Genghis Khan's favorite herb. He actually used it quite a lot to populate, I don't know what percentage of Asia. Yeah. That one there is awesome from a fertility perspective, but then also increasing resting hang size, so flacid length as well. So if you're a grower, you can sort of turn into a shower there.
Amazing.
Wait. So first off, how do you spell Cistanch? And why have I never heard of Cistanch? That's the interesting thing.
Cistanch in your pants.
Yeah. I've never heard of that.
You spell Cistanch. It's CISTANCHE. Cistanch. Well, the reason why most of us haven't heard of it is because it's kept a secret by traditional Chinese medicine. They use it as part of many of their botanical formulas for like male fertility and increasing kidney function, improving mind function. There's so many benefits to Cistanch. I could talk about it forever.
Okay. Now, real quick, I wanna hop back to this DHT thing that we were talking about before. So, what role does that really play? And like, I guess you said it mainly plays a role in individuals' developmental periods.
Yeah, that's correct. So, like during youth, if there's suboptimal DHT production, then it's known to influence the overall vascularization and also the total development of the penis. So that's why it's really crucial that as a youth, this is what I'm planning on doing in the future is loading up my son with natural DHT boosters like I did. I was using cordyceps, I was using creatine, I was using glycine, and all those DHT boosters.
Wow.
And what age? Because my son's about to be 9 months old. I'm just curious when his protocol is going to get started. Because I want to make sure he's nice and strong.
I'd say between like 15 or 16, around that age. Yeah, so you got a long way off, Andrew.
Cool. I got a long ways to stock up.
And also, these pancakes taste so weird, man.
but I mean, also like in as far as development, like does doing normal things like getting outside, getting sun, like what normal things increase DHT production? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So normal things such as lifting weights, and sprinting. In fact, if we compare weight training to sprinting, I've seen some studies where there's massive increases in DHT following a sprinting session, and I've personally noticed this myself, particularly after sprints. I feel really, really good. Yeah,
I'm so happy I played soccer. Okay, and before we skip over this, because we kind of just mentioned this Phoenix, I looked up the Phoenix now that you mentioned it, and man, first off, it's named pretty well, because people don't know Phoenixes. They die and they come back to life. So apparently, this thing will bring your dick back to life. But outside of that, this looks really like. What do you do with this thing? Like, do you just point it at your junk and how does it work exactly? Yeah.
When you first turn on the machine, it sounds like a jackhammer. So just it's pretty confrontational, because like obviously when you're exposed to when you feel like you're in danger, the automatic response by the body is to restrict blood flow. So you do see when I first turned it on, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, am I jackhammering my penis? But basically what it does is that you do go through different lines. They've got instructions, they've got, obviously videos and stuff, but you go down certain pathways, and what it does is it causes microvascular damage, and then eventually it will clear out plaque, which builds up as you age.
Wow.
And so what that does is it also helps to, revascularize the penis and cause a process known as angiogenesis. So it's quite a lengthy, it's no pun intended, it's quite a lengthy process in terms of, it's like a 12-week program.
Does it feel like there's just like
12-week bulk?
12-week bulk. Can one have activity the same day, or is it like resistance training where you feel kind of fatigued afterwards and you can't do your thing for a little bit? How's that recovery wise?
Yeah, you're spot on. So like what happens is following the session, you do feel a little bit of soreness, because it's like going to the gym, like gym for your penis. Basically, it does cause some degree of soreness the following day, and also blood flow and actual penile functioning is slightly inhibited that day. But it's then it's the next few days where you start to see like all the benefits.
Wow. Okay.
How did you kind of mentioned you maxed out your testosterone at a young age? I mean, I'm sure that young kids or teenagers, probably their testosterone levels are probably pretty good a lot of times anyway. But where did you take your testosterone from? Where did you take it to? And then I'm also interested to know, like, what did that actually do for you? Because I think sometimes we're chasing after things that maybe aren't as clear as we might think. Like, we might think like, oh, if I increase my testosterone, it's going to have this, impact on recovery and impact on, but it doesn't always, things don't always kind of work out that way. So how did you get those results, and what did those results do for you?
Yeah, so I started out around 680 total testosterone nanograms per deciliter. And this was about 2 years ago. I was really interested in everything that we can do naturally to optimize testosterone, being a young man. So I was like, I dove into the research and played around with various supplements, various diets, various training methods. And then the final frontier, I think, was actually icing my balls, which I don't know if any guest has spoken about it yet on your show, but that practice there was, I think, what really moved the needle was icing my balls.
How did you ice? Like, what did you use? Did you just like get a plastic bag, put some ice in, and just dunk them in there? What was the process?
So literally all I did was grab one of those like flexible ice packs, those ones that sort of bend, and basically all you do is you apply it directly to your underwear where your balls hang and sit. And I was doing that before training as soon as I woke up, and then also before bed. So 3 times a day for like 10 to 15 minutes. And every single guy that started the practice that I've told about, I did a video on YouTube and stuff talking about it. Like, there's literally every single guy who starts doing it reports benefits, reports better morning wood, better libido, and also we've seen blood work. I did my own blood work before and after, and it definitely moved the needle.
And what did it do for you? Like, did you have better performance in the gym? And were you doing anything else other than icing your nuts? Were you taking some supplements too or something?
Yeah, so I definitely felt a lot more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but more dominant and more, I guess, just having the typical effects that men talk about when they go on TRTs. They just feel confident, motivated, very outgoing and, social. I noticed those benefits like pretty much straight away. In terms of my lifts and things in the gym, I mean, I felt good. I felt really good getting into the gym. But then, as you said, like obviously with the icing, that's one thing. But then I was, stacking that with like a potent anti-serotonin, like a drug that lowers serotonin. I was using, vitamin B1 in high doses, vitamin E, heaps of taurine, cistanche, pine pollen, and tonkat ali. So I was combining a lot of things that are, really efficacious there.
When it comes to these kind of natural ways of doing things, is it similar to perhaps getting on like a TRT protocol? Because my question here would be, when you think about taking performance enhancing drugs, you end up in a situation where you end up with the question, and then what? So do you end up in the same situation when you boost your testosterone levels naturally? And is there any detriment that you're aware of? Because if we raise it, what goes up must come down. So I'm wondering, if you bump your test up to 1,000, does the body have a response to that and say, hey, you know what? You should be chilling way down here, and maybe it takes you even lower than where you were previously. Have you kind of noticed some things like that, or what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I like that concept, but I also respect the fact that the human body, particularly like a young man who's training hard, like it's conducive to training. It's conducive to all aspects of performance. And so like with the things that I use to really ramp up testosterone, I was working on a lot of the enzymes and pathways that help to convert cholesterol into pregnenolone and then down that pathway. So there's no real negative feedback. There's nothing that's going to cause suppression of that HPT axis. So we're looking at more of a longer term, benefit there. If I were to retest anytime soon, I'd imagine it would still be around probably 950, 1,000. So yeah, I like the idea of like, sustainability there.
Also, I'm curious about this because there seems to be just kind of a focus on testosterone for the past few years. It's something that always comes up when we talk to guests. Why, or what are some of the big reasons why you think male testosterone levels are lower nowadays than they were in the past? Because, I mean, they are lower now than they were in the 60s, 30s, 20s, etc.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I think the key reason would be just really crappy lifestyles. So not getting enough sleep, inadequate nutrient intake, so deficiencies in zinc, magnesium, selenium, copper. Even obesity we know can increase C-reactive protein that can cause lower testosterone. some underlying cause that's not really addressed much is a varicocele, so an enlargement of the veins draining back the testes. So there's like an enlargement of the veins, the spermatic cord that drains the testes. That's actually a huge cause of low testosterone that I think guys need to focus in on, because it's neglected. For some guys that do blood tests, they never ever get that checked, and that can be a real cause of low T.
Why does that vein get larger, or why is that? How has that gotten larger?
It's just by the natural, like they say it's like natural evolution, or having tight underwear. Like wearing tight underwear doesn't make it better; it definitely makes it worse.
Oh, okay. Good.
And as far as icing your nuts, can anybody just literally hop right on that ice pack, or is it like, I don't know, do you have to do any yeah, exactly, I couldn't think of the right word, but like any pre-game things to jump to do that, or can anybody in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s just start doing it and start getting some of the benefits?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, all you have to do is there is no there's no pre-warm up or anything. In fact, if you warm up, that's the opposite of ice. Like if you want using a sauna was traditionally used as a male contraceptive. So any sort of heat to the testes we know can damage sperm. So this one here, I mean, that's one rule of thumb. Whenever I use the sauna, is always bring an ice pack in the sauna, because that's the one time when you want your T to be higher. You know?
Yeah. What are a couple other things with the sauna? I saw you had a video. I didn't have an opportunity to watch it. What are a couple other things that you should be aware of if you're going to use some heat therapy?
Yeah. So the other aspect there is something that not many people realize, is that, sauna can raise prolactin, and it can also release endorphins, and some of them, there's something that can bind to the kappa opioid receptor. And so this is a little bit, complex, but basically when when the opioids are released and they bind to the kappa opioid receptor, it's actually very dysphoric, which is the opposite of euphoric. It can actually make people feel really flat and deflated following the usage. And I personally noticed this. I've got my own clear light infrared sauna behind me. The day after that I use it, it's always around 2 or 3 o'clock the following day when I do feel depleted and just a bit flat. And I keep thinking it's electrolyte based, or it feels like I've been sucked. My dopamine's been sucked away a little bit. So that's something people should be aware of, is the prolactin spike there.
Interesting. Okay. So, that's something that's not a benefit, but you said that you contrast it with cold plunging or using cold. So how is that beneficial, and are there any drawbacks to cold plunging and sauna? But what is the benefit of doing a sauna and then a cold plunge afterwards?
So the combination there, so if I were to, use a sauna and then cold plunge, what I actually do now is I just bring an ice pack in the sauna for convenience sake. I'm literally just icing, but I mean, the benefits of alternating between super hot and then super cold is we're getting, awesome vasodilation followed by super vasoconstriction. And I mean, I'm sure there's some other crazy neurochemicals that are released in the brain when we do that alternating therapy. It's very, I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed that, Mark, even when you alternate, you feel pretty good the next day, or just after it.
Yeah, you feel brand new. You feel like you're recovered from your workout, whether you're recovered or not. What are some maybe tips and tricks you have in terms of building muscle when it comes to supplementation? I've heard you talk about a really wide range of stuff. Some things even helping with insulin sensitivity and stuff of that nature. And I would imagine that if you can drive more nutrient to the muscles, it might help you look more jacked, or might help you be more jacked. So do you have anything, I know people talk quite a bit nowadays about essential amino acids during the workout, and people have all kinds of different practices when it comes to gaining muscle. Do you have anything up your sleeve in terms of recovery, or in terms of just being able to load the muscles with more nutrients?
Yeah, there's one molecule that I'm really excited about. It's not exactly released yet, but it will be fairly soon. Everyone's heard of BCAAs. Everyone knows about leucine, isoleucine, valine, so those three amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
There is one that's a derivative of leucine called dileucine. It's two leucine molecules bound together to create a dileucine peptide. And that one there, based on some initial human trials, that one there increases protein synthesis by up to 40% more than leucine by itself. So that's something that's going to be really cool.
When you say it's unreleased, what do you mean by it's a molecule that's unreleased? Like, how did you get your hands on it?
I work real closely with Sean Wells. He's like he's considered the world's greatest formulator. So I do get my hands on some nifty ingredients. And if you saw my pantry, I mean, it's full of exotic botanicals and weird compounds. But it will be released, I think, later towards the end of this year. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to see it released just in isolation so that guys can literally use it on its own, like post-workout, maybe like adding less than 2 grams in your shake. That's really exciting. I'm really excited about that one.
What about some of these things that people are utilizing to help them manage their blood glucose levels? There were some of these pharmaceuticals that you were talking about that can maybe assist with people losing body fat and things of that nature.
Yeah. So the one compound that really excites me from an insulin sensitivity perspective is, again, a lot of people know about berberine, but there's something else called dihydroberberine, so DHB, not dihydroboldenone, dihydroberberine. That one there is really interesting because a lot of the drawbacks associated with berberine is the really poor bioavailability. You have to use really high doses. If we're trying to match, like, let's say metformin, you have to use, 1,500 to 2,000 sort of milligrams to really see a difference. But dihydroberberine, we can use such a small dose, like 50 to 100 milligrams per day, and it's got better bioavailability. It then gets reconverted back into berberine in the small intestine, and it doesn't come with any of the drawbacks like bloating, cramping, or all the other side effects. So, and dihydroberberine is awesome because it improves GLUT4 expression, activates AMPK, and increases adiponectin and all these awesome pathways.
And that's still something that people can get their hands on currently?
Yeah, it's released. I just did a post about it a couple of days ago on my Instagram for those, because a lot of people have been waiting for that ingredient.
How would someone go about utilizing that? Would that be something you would want to take with a high carbohydrate meal type of thing?
Exactly, yeah. So my premise there is to use it about 20 to 30 minutes before your highest carb meal of the day. So for me, that's like in the evening. I tend to refuel on carbs in the evening. And so I'll use it about just the same way that bodybuilders would use metformin. They would use, dihydroberberine as a substitute there.
And for you, actually, since you kind of mentioned that, in what ways do you like schedule out your food during the day for work productivity?
Yeah, so I do fast a little bit. I was telling Mark that I do aim to get 20,000 steps in a day because I got a treadmill desk set up. So I do a lot of content creation on the treadmill. But as soon as I wake up in the morning, like I'll do 10,000 steps, fasted. Once I hit that 10,000 steps mark, I bring in my first meal, which is always like 40, 50 grams of protein with some sort of fats. So it's high fat, high protein. Mm-hmm. And then I shift everything, and then I stagger the carbohydrates back and carb backload. It works really well for me from a productivity perspective, and then also the sleep aspect as well. I find I sleep, really well when I shift majority of my carbohydrate sources towards the end of the day.
And also, like when you mentioned dihydroberberine or berberine, do you notice any shift in how tired you feel after? Because like if I eat a high carbohydrate meal, if I don't go take a walk, I'll feel pretty lethargic, kind of tired. Do you notice that kind of goes away when you use that?
Yeah, it does help to blunt the post-meal fatigue a little bit. So you do get, just like even when I've played around with metformin, I've noticed my carbohydrate tolerance, and also megadosing vitamin B1. That one there is so effective to reduce the crash post-meal, because it really ramps up glucose oxidation. So you get like a really good ability to handle carbohydrates when you have, like, let's say 400 to 800 milligrams of just vitamin B1 on its own. A lot of people think that, oh yeah, I get B1 in my B complex, but when you use B1 on its own, like in isolation, like that one there is really effective for reducing post-meal fatigue.
So much has been made of the gut microbiome. Have you kind of seen anything that can help make a more favorable microbiome to help us get the most out of our food, maybe the most out of our protein, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there is one molecule that I really like, and that's being used in the bodybuilding scene quite a lot. It's a peptide, BPC 157. It's the healing peptide. I'm sure you guys have either played around with or used. That one there, there's no research to suggest that it can improve the microbiome as such, but there is a lot of research to suggest that it can heal a lot of these inflammatory conditions in the gut, and also help to seal the tight junctions. So reduces intestinal hyperpermeability, so a leaky gut. And that one there, like I've seen many clients that have used it in the past that have use BPC 157. After 3 or 4 days, their stools are literally back to normal, like just perfect stools. And that's always a really good sign of healthy gut health.
Shit, I didn't know it had that use. I thought it was more just for injuries.
Yeah, I mean, it's primarily used. Well, that's the reason why I first tried it in the first place, because I tore my medial meniscus playing soccer. And I took BPC for like 5 days or so, and literally on the 6th and 7th day, first of all, I was getting like super deep sleep. It bumped up my deep sleep to 3 hours, 15 minutes, which I've never seen before. And then, and then it healed my knee, and I haven't had any. I was going to get surgery, but I never needed it because I just had BPC. It was awesome.
What about other supplements for getting deeper sleep? Because I know you had some info on, was it? No, I think that was serotonin or melatonin. I'm not sure which one. I think it was melatonin, right? You did? Okay. So I guess explain why there's a dark side to melatonin, and if there's something else that we could be taking to help get better sleep.
Yeah, there is one molecule. It is pharma grade, like it is a prescription item, I think, in Germany. It's called agomelatine. It's a derivative of melatonin. Traditionally, not traditionally, but pharmaceutically, it's used as an antidepressant because it can antagonize the 5-HT2C serotonin receptor. But agomelatine has been shown in some studies to normalize the circadian rhythm following jet lag or sleep disruption schedules. So that one there is pretty cool. And then there's another one known as Blue Lotus. I did a post on Blue Lotus extract. That one there is awesome because it shares some similar properties to like Valium and some other benzos, but without any of the major drawbacks such as tolerance and habituation.
So Blue Lotus, what does it do? What does it do inside of you? Does it just what exactly does it do?
So Blue Lotus extract, it's a herbal. So it's traditionally used as what's known as a nervine. So it calms the nervous system, and it binds to the Gaba A receptor, which is similar to the same receptor that alcohol and taurine binds to. So it activates the inhibitory aspect of the brain. And, there's some studies suggesting that it can improve both slow wave sleep and also REM sleep. So that's a pretty cool botanical to, experiment with.
And I saw a video where you were talking about having your bench or your not your bench, your bed on an incline. and what that does for people for their sleep. What are some things that you've seen that improve?
Yeah, that was really cool. So it's called inclined bed therapy, and so all it is basically this is like OG biohacker stuff here. So all you have to do with inclined bed therapy is raise the head end of your bed by 6 to 8 inches. So you're basically sleeping. Your whole bed is on an incline. You can't just use pillows to prop it up. You need to actually incline your whole bed.
Oh, wow.
And what that does is it actually increases a process known as glymphatic drainage, which is the brain's ability to detoxify. It needs to clear out. A lot of detoxification in the brain occurs during our sleep. And so by enhancing glymphatic drainage, what I noticed was like you wake up with definitely more energy. You don't feel, sometimes some people get dizzy when they wake up, that goes away. Some people who have back pain, those that have back pain see huge reductions in back pain. Then also reductions in acid reflux or heartburn because you're sleeping inclined. And then the other benefit is increased morning wood as well.
It's a great benefit, right?
Yeah. And then do you have to sleep on your back? Can you be on your side, or does it even matter?
I've never looked into the differences, but I guess I would say probably sleeping on your side is probably the best position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what about, so I've actually never heard of this, but you emailed about it and I'm super interested. 9-MBC, because before I met Mark, I was a pretty big dork for nootropics and stuff. So like I would mess with all of the nootropics in the racetam family, and then of course alpha GPC like everybody. But I tried solbutamine, all kinds of different compounds. Couldn't really ever get the effect that I was going for. But this sounds really, really interesting. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, this is the one that really excites me. I call it the ayahuasca inspired nootropic because if we look at the chemical structure, first of all, we're talking about 9-methyl beta-carboline. So it's a beta-carboline, and so it's actually similar to some of the alkaloids that are actually found in the ayahuasca brew. There's a family of alkaloids called Harmala alkaloids, and these are like those monoamine oxidase inhibitors. And so 9-MBC is really awesome because it shares similarities with those, but then it also has been shown to regenerate dopamine neurons, particularly in Parkinson's disease in rat studies. So, and basically what people notice is that 9-MBC can restore sensitivity to stimulants. So they become more sensitive to Ritalin, Adderall, caffeine, and other compounds there. It's really powerful in that regard.
So resensitize. So that means, like, for example, if you're someone you drink a lot of coffee, right? Or maybe you need 800 milligrams of caffeine a day to actually feel it. If you use this, you can resensitize yourself to caffeine. Like, how would that work in application if somebody was trying to use this?
Yeah. So when it comes to dosages and like timing, so it's a compound that I actually prefer to use more sparingly because it's very potent, and there is no human research on this molecule yet. It is a research chemical, but looking at the literature, it's pretty amazing. We see like regenerative properties, protective effects, antioxidant effects. I did a whole blog post talking about all of the literature behind 9-MBC, but we'd be looking at about 10 to 15 milligrams, maybe once or twice a week. I like to use it on Sundays just because like Sunday is always that like recovery day. And then maybe Sunday and then split it and then use it maybe Wednesday. And then you definitely, you start to notice that you get that typical dopamine buzz or, push that you used to get from like caffeine and other stimulants as well.
And where can you get this? Is this something like anybody can buy, or is it still like unknown and kind of underground?
It was underground and unknown, but there's a few vendors the one that I use is the one that I've got on my website. It's affiliated with Science.bio. They're an awesome company. They're based in the States, so it's easy for you guys to get that.
Sick. And how long can you take this? Like, or is like just keeping the 2 doses a week kind of a moderate dose to where you can just kind of prolong that?
Yeah, I think some guys online, some guys in the psychonaut community have used 9-MBC for like 4 weeks straight. But they're those guys that are really abused their brain with Ritalin and Adderall for years, and they're trying to recover. They've seen benefits by running it for a longer period of time.
And would you be able to like stack this with other nootropics and kind of do the same thing where like, if I take alpha GPC, I don't really feel anything, but if I take this for a couple of weeks and then I take that and it's just like, holy shit, like it feels awesome again.
Yeah, it does stack really well with other choline-based nootropics. It stacks really well with a lot of the dopamine precursors. So L-phenylalanine or L-tyrosine, it does stack beautifully with that. And then also another compound known as uridine monophosphate. That one there increases dopamine receptor density. So that's another awesome compound as well.
I hope people have a pen out during this show.
Yeah,
I hope they're trying to write all this stuff down.
I have an irrational fear with certain, like, the reason why I think I've kind of used supplements sparingly within the years is because I kind of have a fear that a certain supplement, like I heard about melatonin, how I can actually blunt your actual melatonin production, right? So from the things that we're talking about here, how can people kind of look at their overall supplement intake in a way that it gives them benefit with no drawbacks? Because that's what I look for. Like icing my balls, I can see that being a benefit with no drawbacks, right? So with all the supplements that we're talking about here, how can people use these things so it doesn't have any drawbacks for their production of anything that their body actually does produce, but instead just helps it? And if they do stop taking it, it doesn't blunt any of their actual normal production of anything.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan on that. With that perspective as well. Like, I'm always looking at supplements in that way, or compounds and things. Are they sustainable? I.e., what happens when we withdraw from the compound? And that's always like the first rule of thumb is like, whatever compound I'm selecting or playing around with, I need to understand, first of all, the mechanism of action. Once you understand how the supplement works or the pathways that it targets, then we can have an understanding and sort of reverse engineer it and check in and figure out, hey, is there like a negative feedback loop just with like hormone therapy, or is it going to cause some other weird downstream effect where it's going to displace some other enzyme or deplete some other vitamin? So yeah, it really is an art to know how to stack things together. But yeah, I think there is one molecule that I really liked. It was one that was good because it had benefits even 3 months after withdrawal. And that really excites me because it's like antibiotics. You do a course, you you undergo changes on a molecular level. And then once we cease the compound, or once we stop the compound, a lot of the benefits still linger for months after use. And that's what really, like, that particular aspect is really what excites me.
What was that molecule that you were talking about?
It's one of my favorite. It's called Bromantane.
Bromantane.
That's dope.
Sick. What is it? What's it do?
It's actually, first of all, it's banned by WADA. It's a performance enhancing.
Count me in.
Bromantane is awesome. It was first developed to help Russian astronauts cope, out of space, and also a lot of the Russian Olympians were using it to combat stress and improve performance. It's technically the very first synthetic adaptogen ever developed. And adaptogens are designed to help the body cope, with stress, And Bromantane is definitely one of those compounds. And when I first used Bromantane, I'll never forget the day, the first day I tried it. I remember I had it first thing in the morning, and then I went to the library. I was doing some study. I stayed there for like 4 hours, and I was like, this shit's not even doing anything. I don't feel anything. And I thought I had placebo, and I was like, I didn't feel anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I came back home, and when I came back home, I was like, all of a sudden I just felt like I really wanted to train. And so I did a workout, I went to the playground, I did like a calisthenics workout, and I just felt so good. And I just will never forget that workout. Nothing will trump that workout.
Have you found anything that's like discipline in a bottle or motivation in a bottle?
The one that I mentioned before, uridine monophosphate, that one there helps you get shit done. Like that one there completely stops that procrastination. That just, it shuts off rumination. Like it stops that overthinking bullshit voice in your head that like ruminates and just stops you from taking action. When I use uridine and when I've prescribed it, people notice that they feel way like a lot more goal oriented and less so like pleasure hedonic seeking.
Any drawbacks as far as like, because, for example, people take Adderall. Sometimes they feel like massive levels of fatigue for some reason later on. Any drawbacks with this, uridine monophosphate?
The only major drawbacks is death. No, I'm joking. Is B6, B9, and B12 deficiency. So it can, deplete vitamins B6, B9, B12. And it also needs to be combined with DHA and EPA, so plenty of fish oil.
What about things, for the brain, to try to enhance memory? Maybe something that someone could take while they're studying or they're trying to learn something. What are some recommendations on some things that might be able to assist with that?
Yeah, so recently I spoke about the benefits of methylene blue, which I won't mention I won't mention the major benefit here because it is being used to treat what at the moment. But methylene blue is awesome because, well, first of all, it's the very first synthetic drug ever developed by mankind. It was like 1800s or something. And methylene blue, when we're using it at a micro dose, so I'm looking at less than 1 milligram, we're talking super low dose, it can massively improve various aspects of memory. So short-term memory, spatial memory, contextual memory, and all other aspects of memory. That one there's one that I was using around the time that I was, prepping for exams and studying, because it just helped so much when I was reading material. Like I could play it back in my head a lot easier, which was, a cool compound.
And how do people get their hands on methylene blue? Is it something you have to have prescribed to you? Is it like, how's that work?
The same company that sells that 9-MBC, they also stock methylene blue. And it needs to be pharma grade because it's also used to clean fish tanks as well.
So clean fish tanks. What do people need to be careful about with methylene blue?
First of all, there are major side effects, particularly if you go pretty high dose. One of the side effects is blue pit, like blue urine. So you urinate blue. That's
man, you gotta mention these things, man.
You should start with that.
You gotta mention these things right after, man.
I'm peeing like an alien.
Why am I peeing blue?
It's wild. It's sick.
It's not sick. That's crazy.
Because I'm just thinking it reminds me of like Mountain Dew Baja Blast. And like, man, that shit's delicious. But then it's like, you're peeing it.
Oh, that's true. That did happen. Okay. Wow. All right. So
stain the tongue blue, so you get a blue tongue lizard effect as well.
Wow.
Shit.
I know that it's popular for some people. They want to get like a crazy pump in the gym. And for a while, people were using like nitric oxide type supplements. Have you found anything along those lines that can help people feel more pumped and more jacked during their training sessions?
Yeah, there's one flavonoid that I really like that came, it was pretty popular about 5-6 years ago, but then it just died off. I don't know why it died off. It's called a mentoflavone. It's a flavonoid that it inhibits PDE5 slightly, so similar to Viagra in that regard. But then it also increases calcium. It just dumps a lot of calcium into the muscle cell. One of the benefits of caffeine that not many people realize is that caffeine, part of its ergogenic benefits and part of its performance enhancing benefits is that it can help to release more calcium into the muscle cell. And calcium is needed for muscular contraction. So one of the benefits of a mentoflavone is that it's got a calcium releasing effect 100 times stronger than caffeine. So we're getting like really wicked muscle contractions and really, really powerful, muscle pumps as well.
Wow. So I guess anything else, or are there any other supplements that you think would be beneficial in that realm?
I do like some of the glycerols. There's one called Hydromax that's like a glycerol-based powder, and that one there just super hydrates the cell. So like it just makes you hold a lot of fluid in the muscle cell. It can give you that puffy, like less ripped look, but if you're literally chasing the pump, glycerol is really powerful in that regard.
How about, because creatine can help hydrate a muscle and help with performance. So I guess as far as creatine, do there's like other forms of creatine that people talk about that most people say are fairly useless. Do you see any benefit in any of those versus creatine monohydrate? Because creatine monohydrate is the one that everybody talks about. And does this glycerol thing that you mentioned work in a similar fashion or no?
So I actually prefer to use creatine monohydrate again, because most of the research is on that. And then in terms of some of the ones that are popping up, and like there's crealkaline and creatine nitrate and all these ones, look, I think I'm excited to see further research in the other ones, but again, I would stick to the one that we love and know, which is creatine monohydrate. It does work. It's powerful in that regard. And then how it compares to glycerol, I would say glycerol has like a 3 to 5 times stronger effect at actually holding water in the cell compared to creatine. Just from my experience, like using a megadose of glycerol with heaps of water, like you got to drink a lot of water. That's like a really awesome supplement to use, particularly in hot environments as well.
Rewinding real quick, because you mentioned something that was pretty interesting. I had my blood work done with Merrick for the first time I don't know if it was like early this year. But I found out my prolactin was kind of high. And I thought it's just because at the time I use a little bit of kratom every now and then, and I smoke a little weed. So I thought that was the only reason why. But I also sauna quite a bit. So is the prolactin increase from sauna, is that something that's substantial, or is it pretty minor? It only happens and it goes back down to normal?
Yeah, I would say the effect is transient. So it's, a slight rise in prolactin, I would say maybe for 6 to 8 hours. And then it should come back down to whatever your baseline is. Gotcha. But if your baseline prolactin is already medium to high, then I would incorporate, a lot of these dopamine boosters, like the one I mentioned before, Bromantane, which is a, dopamine-based nootropic, which can suppress prolactin. I would avoid some of the really powerful pharma-grade prolactin inhibitors. Some of them can lead to some degree of withdrawal. But yeah, I would check up on some of the dopamine boosters there.
And how often do you because one thing I wonder is like, what's your supplement stack look like? Because it's like, about all these compounds, but how often do you get like your blood work checked with like some of these compounds you use to see how it like kind of does affect testosterone and all these different things?
I probably should be doing more frequent blood work. I do it probably every 6 months ish. I would like to do it maybe every 3 months because I'm always incorporating new compounds. I'm really careful though. Like, although it sounds like I blast myself with so many subs and just take everything under the sun, shotgun approach. I'm very meticulous and very strategic in what I use when I use it. I'm very like, I would say I'm very just mature in that regard. I'm not like abusive in that realm.
Gotcha.
You brought up caffeine having some benefits for muscle, and I'm going on 3 weeks and 3 days of no caffeine, but who's counting? So for Sober October, we've tried to give up caffeine, and we're doing good for the most part. But one thing Mark and I were talking about, because we went on a walk and we were just explaining like our experience with it. And one thing for sure that is happening with me is I'm eating so much more.
Yep.
We're talking and we're like, this just has to be us like in our own heads. Like, oh, I don't have that coffee. So now I'm not, I'm not fasting or whatever it may be. So is there any truth to that, or are we just tripping? But like, it seems like caffeine would suppress the hunger. So does caffeine suppress hunger, and is there anything else that we can do to suppress that nasty gremlin, hunger ghrelin, nasty little guy?
So the way in which caffeine would suppress appetite would most likely be due to its activation of the sympathetic nervous system. So, two branches of the nervous system, the sympathetic and then the parasympathetic. Because caffeine's stimulating the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight, if we no longer get that stimulation from caffeine, it's going to start to shift the balance more towards parasympathetic tone. And when we're more so in a parasympathetic state, all we really think about is rest, digest, and sex. So like these are the three things that I guess would be more stimulated when we're withdrawing from caffeine. So I guess so you guys have been 3 weeks without caffeine so far?
Yeah, about that. I'm a week ahead of them, but
no, not them, him.
Sorry, and Nsima did kind of have a couple of cups here and there, but you're having less though, right?
I'm having one cup of coffee a day, but the appetite thing is very true. When I wasn't drinking any caffeine and I stopped for a while, I found it much harder to fast. Like I was just like literally cutting it short because I was so freaking hungry, and I was able to start putting down a lot more food.
The other mechanism there could also be caffeine does increase ketones. So maybe by getting a reduction in ketone bodies during a fast, your body's like, oh shit, like I need to find some sort of fuel source. So that could be a possibility there as well.
What's this supplement that could kill sweet tooth? We talk with a lot of people that struggle with having a sweet tooth. It's very common for many people after dinner. The kind of evil side comes out and we start looking through the pantry, munching on everything. So what are some ways that we can kill sweet tooth, and is this even a good idea or good practice?
Yeah, there's a herb known as Nsima sylvester, and it's known in India as the sugar destroyer. Because it actually binds to the sweet tasting receptors on the tongue and even in the stomach, and it blocks the ability to taste sweet flavors.
Jesus.
And it's pretty powerful.
Is that a bad idea? I mean, like, can you not take let's just say you're trying to make healthier decisions and now you just want a bite of like an apple. You probably can't taste the apple either, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you chew a marshmallow on Nsima, like it just tastes like you're eating carpet.
Would that make you in some way? Would that make you eat more because you're like not getting what you want out of it?
Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that as well. I think it would, but there's probably other components in the actual herb that will also, by blocking that sweet taste receptor, there's probably other compounds within the herb that also activate regions in the brain that maybe trick the signaling there. These herbs are really some of them are really smart. They contain compounds that we think won't occur, but they've got compounds in there that can sort of offset some of the deleterious effects, which is pretty cool.
And is this another supplement that's readily available? Because a quick Google search and it's like all over the place and it's really cheap. So that makes me think that it's like I'm not looking at the right thing.
So it is available pretty easily, but it needs to be an alcohol based extract, and it needs to be a 1-to-2 ratio, and it needs to also be in that liquid tincture form, because you want to dump, like you actually want to dump the herb liquid under your, like on your tongue. It's fairly easy to get, and people are using it for mostly diabetes management, type 2 diabetes.
Wow. Along with that, because we talk about fat loss a lot on the show, is there any supplements that you think are actually beneficial for true fat loss? Because we maybe talk a lot about diet habits, etc. We don't really talk much about supplementation for fat loss, but do you think there's anything that people should maybe think about in association with good sleep, good habits, exercise?
Yeah, I do think there's a few things we can incorporate. There is one molecule which is it's a metabolite of valine. So one of the BCAAs. It's called L-BAIBA, L and then BAIBA. That one there is really cool because it stimulates the beiging, like the browning of white fat. So it increases brown fat production, similar to cold therapy, cold plunges. We know the benefits there is increasing brown fat. But this L-BAIBA is awesome because it's actually released following aerobic exercise. And in the mice studies, it increases insulin sensitivity. It reduces lipogenesis, so the creation of fat cells. It's a really cool molecule.
Cool. And I guess since we're going down this path, how about, because there's a lot of videos on your channel about supplementation for individuals who have anxiety. So is there anything that you think is truly useful there? Because we know a lot of people end up taking actual pharmaceutical medication for that, but is there anything that people can turn to that's not in that sphere?
Yeah, so we've seen huge benefits with the amino acid taurine. Pretty high doses, like 3,000 milligrams to 5,000 milligrams is really good for activating the Gaba network and activating Gaba receptors. And a lot of people notice reductions in social anxiety. They just feel a bit more fluent and less inhibited socially. So taurine's pretty, again, versatile. It has a whole heap of other benefits. But then it also is definitely psychoactive at high doses.
Is there anything to be careful with at higher doses of taurine, and what other benefits does it have?
There aren't many side effects. I mean, there's been some pretty long studies, like I think it was like a 3-month long study at about 3,000 milligrams in adults, and there were no untoward side effects. If anything, it improved liver function, kidney function. It improved the antioxidant capacity of the body. It's considered a longevity amino acid, just like glycine. So it really doesn't have many drawbacks. For some people, it might make them slightly tired or fatigued because it has that cortisol lowering effect. But otherwise, it's quite good.
They put taurine in a lot of energy drinks, though, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do that. The doses that they use, I think they're using about 1,000 milligrams. And well, part of the other benefit there is that taurine can double liver glycogen stores. So it can actually help the liver to store more fuel, to help to increase glycogen storage in the liver, which is your backup source of energy, which, those Red Bull and energy drinks, they contain so much sugar, but then they've got taurine, which lowers blood sugar. So it's actually a pretty smart move by the creators.
Got it. Well, so since I haven't had an energy drink in a while, I'm feeling way better, but this is probably because of too much caffeine. But I'm noticing that like my anxiety levels are actually gone down significantly. So do you think that's just because I'm having just obviously 100% less caffeine, kind of like you had mentioned it earlier, like it kind of puts you in that fight or flight state. Do you know anything about that? Because I was curious, because I did notice this, and I mentioned to Mark and Nsima, but like I don't know anything about it. So I was just curious if there's anything actually there.
Yeah, it's a good point. So what happens following withdrawal is, because caffeine can also block GABA A receptors. So that's the receptor that taurine binds to. So caffeine, by blocking GABA A receptors, when we get a withdrawal from caffeine, now that GABA A receptor is going to start functioning again. And so, that's going to reduce anxiety, because the GABA network is the neurotransmitter system that modulates anxiety and things like that. So we'd also probably see, you've probably noticed a reduction in norepinephrine or noradrenaline as well, because caffeine can stimulate noradrenaline levels.
Interesting. And then in regards to GABA, because I've taken GABA just straight by itself, and it was the weirdest thing. Like I couldn't, I kind of fell asleep and I forgot to breathe. Like I would wake up gasping for air and I'd start sneezing like crazy. So I haven't messed with it since then, but I'm curious because you mentioned GABA A receptor. I wasn't sure if like taking straight GABA would actually improve that, or if I just probably just leave it all alone.
Yeah, that side effect is a real side effect. And heaps of bodybuilders have had that side effect where they literally forget to breathe.
It was crazy.
Oh, yeah, it would have been so scary. It's only at really high doses, though. Like anything above like 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams can really induce that effect. Lower doses, like 250 to 500 milligrams, I use all the time with no side effect, like no breathing issues at all.
Interesting.
In your opinion, what's better than caffeine, or maybe another option from caffeine?
Yeah, there's another molecule. It's I call it caffeine's older brother. It's called teacrine. This was that ingredient that I mentioned at the start of the show, was the most used ingredient in pre-workouts, because it's so good, because it doesn't increase. It has no effect on blood pressure, no effect on heart rate, and no effect on anxiety. So you're getting all of the benefits of caffeine, such as the mental alertness, wakefulness promoting effect, without any of the major side effects. And we're looking at dosages between like 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams of teacrine.
Any drawbacks to teacrine?
It's hard to find major drawbacks. It's approved by, it's got GRAS status, so it's safe in sports. It's just, It's overall just a winning compound.
So I was taking anywhere from like 400 to 600 milligrams of caffeine a day. And when I came off of it, I had pretty shitty headaches for like almost 2 weeks. If I were to take teacrine instead, and then maybe try to I guess I wouldn't come off anyways if there's so many benefits, but if I were, would I have the same reaction?
So like as if you withdrew from teacrine?
Yeah, so like would I get the same symptoms from caffeine withdrawals as I would with teacrine withdrawals?
There might be a little bit of crossover there, but what's crazy in some of the rat studies with teacrine, they administered it for 8 weeks, and even after the 8th week, they were still getting the stimulation and energy effects. Whereas caffeine, you have to keep on escalating the dose. You have to keep on rising the dose to get the same stimulation. But teacrine had like it didn't build any tolerance to the stimulation, that's awesome, because again, we don't need to use higher and higher doses to achieve the same effect.
And then, So another question about that, and this one might be a little bit way out there, but the reason why I gave up caffeine was for my wife, who gave it up for our son because she's breastfeeding, and we were having a hard time figuring out, like, dude, like he takes a nap, and then by the time we walk out of the room, he's already awake. Middle of the day, he would be, he wanted anything except a nap, but he was tired, right? Like that energetic, tired feeling is a terrible place to be. And he was a kid. We couldn't figure out what's going on. And so we cut out caffeine, and within 3 days, he's putting himself to sleep. He's staying asleep longer. He's sleeping more throughout the night. So it's like, holy shit, like, okay, this is what we do now. But I'm curious, if she were to take teacrine, would the effect happen also where the teacrine would get into the breast milk and then get into my son's system?
I haven't seen any literature on that. I would just be, I'd still be pretty cautious again, because teacrine, like it's literally exactly like caffeine, but just with an extra methyl group attached. So it probably have the same effects on breast milk.
Are there any really popular supplements that you think people should start being careful of? I saw that there's a video you have talking about lion's mane and sex drive, and I'm not sure, like, first off, how much of an effect that may have, but are there any supplements that are super popular that you think people should have a double take at?
Yeah. So the lion's mane one is mostly around the DHT inhibition. A lot of guys, maybe like 2 or 3 out of 10 guys notice a reduction in sex drive, like dramatic reduction in libido and sex drive following lion's mane. My theory there was, one, it might be a mild DHT blocker, and then also it has a compound that can bind to the kappa opioid receptor, which is, generally speaking, it's not a fun receptor to agonize or bind to.
Yeah.
In fact, ibogaine is a really strong. Salvia, the smokable, is actually a really strong kappa opioid agonist. So I think, lion's mane's one that guys should be careful of. Dr. Andrew Huberman spoke about curcumin as well. I also believe that as well. I think curcumin can inhibit DHT, and it has a serotonin boosting effect that, again, like in general, we don't want too much serotonin, because if we're looking at the constitution of someone with awesome testosterone and DHT, like they don't have high serotonin. Those individuals have high dopamine, which promotes DHT and stuff.
So what would, like, as far as serotonin, what should people be careful of in terms of, potentially increasing it, or what should people be careful with in terms of serotonin in general?
Yeah. Well, there's one herb, again, it's ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, it's awesome for lowering stress. It does increase testosterone, but it does have a bit of a dark side, and that is it can sort of desensitize a particular serotonin receptor that regulates the total production of serotonin in the brain. And so with high serotonin from ashwagandha, people are getting a lot of the side effects associated with SSRIs. So they're getting the blunted effects, so blunting of emotions. Things don't feel as pleasurable as they used to. Sometimes it can affect just in general anticipatory pleasure, so they don't get that thrill or excitement leading up to something that's fun. So that's something to really keep an eye out for, because again, I've got a folder on my computer here just keeping tally of all the guys that are being affected by ashwagandha, and I'm just trying to get the message out there. Just be careful with ashwagandha. That's
funny you're saying that, because ashwagandha, like, it was a month ago, ashwagandha was a supplement that was kind of going viral on TikTok and IG, and everyone was talking about, oh, ashwagandha is going to increase your testosterone. So everyone started buying and taking ashwagandha, but you weren't hearing about anything like this.
Yeah, it's rarely spoken about, because it's only one little study back in, I don't know, it was like at late 1990s. But again, we need to respect personal experience and anecdotal experience as a form of evidence, because like I'm just seeing more and more guys. I literally will just ask guys like, hey, have you started using ashwagandha? They'll be like, yeah, I started 4 weeks ago. I'm like, have you noticed this, this, and this? And they're like, shit, I have. Like, I've noticed all those symptoms, and I thought it was supposed to be good for me, but something to just really keep an eye out for.
What's the deal with like earthing and just getting your feet into the ground? Like, what are some of your thoughts on what that does for us, or why people should look into having that practice?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in grounding or earthing. So the premise here is that it basically helps to resynchronize the cortisol rhythm in the body. So it can help to it has a normalizing effect on the cortisol awakening response, which is also known as CAR. And by exposing the body, just like we did thousands of years ago, where we didn't wear shoes everywhere, we're actually making contact with Mother Nature, with Earth, it actually, it's like a potent antioxidant. So it can donate electrons in the body, and it can influence our antioxidant status in the body. And we've seen studies where, they're using earthing mats for professional cyclists, and they see improvements in recovery, reductions in DOMS. So it's something I believe in. I've got myself a earthing mat underneath my desk, underneath my, on the treadmill desk, and that really does help with just in general, like getting that earthing in.
What are some things that can help us with fasting? We talk about fasting quite a bit on the show. Are there things that can help with hunger, or are there things that can accelerate the impact and effects of the fast?
Yeah, things that work really well for fasting. I like the L-phenylalanine, the amino acid, at about 1,000 milligrams. That can suppress appetite by increasing cholecystokinin, so that suppresses the appetite regulatory hormone in the stomach. But then it can also increase dopamine, so it can sort of make that fasting a lot easier, because you're getting that mental clarity effect during the fast, and you also feel more energetic as well.
You said, what was this called again?
L-phenylalanine. It's an essential amino acid.
L-phenylalanine. Okay, that's awesome.
I heard you talking about potential supplements to help with like fear, and it's just all sounds so crazy at times to learn, some of these things that we once thought were like impossible, that these supplements can potentially help with something like fear. What is the mechanism behind that? What's the supplement that can assist with that?
Yeah, so the fear response it can be regulated through a pathway known as histone deacetylase, and in a lot of the fear-based research studies where they're actually assessing the ability of a mice to explore a new environment. So what they do in these studies is they check to see if the rat or the mice, when they expose them to a novel, it's called like a novel environment, whether or not they want to actually explore, whether they actually want to go out and see things, which makes sense in humans. Like if you're scared or fearful, you don't really want to leave your home or explore novel environments. So by inhibiting histone deacetylase, so HDAC, histone deacetylase, through the use of compounds such as black seeds, so black seed oil, which is Nigella sativa, that particular medicine, whilst it's used to treat so many other conditions, it does contain something known as thymoquinone, which in studies demonstrates histone deacetylase inhibitory properties. And so people have noted just in general when they use black seed oil, and from my experience, it definitely has it sort of makes you feel less inhibited and a bit more fluent in social settings.
Black seed oil. This is interesting. My mom, last year, and she still does. She went down a black seed oil rabbit hole, and now she's taking black seed oil every day. And she's like, you need to get black seed oil. So what other benefits come with black seed oil other than this? And then secondly, as far as the fear negating, it makes me think of like those horror movies when you hear somebody with a chainsaw, one guy's like, I wonder what that is. And then the other dude's like, let's go the other way, right? Is there any type of problematic thing where like it will make you not fear something that you should definitely be afraid of?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not strong enough to induce like complete fearless states, but I mean, yeah, in certain situations, I could imagine, by blunting that fear response, yeah, it can have a bit of a deleterious effect. But like seeing as though your mum was using black seed oil, I mean, the other benefits, there's so many other benefits from modulating the immune system. It does have super potent anti-cancer effects in rat studies. Mm-hmm. It also is a potent antioxidant, and it can also, protect the kidneys, protect the thyroid. there are so many benefits to black seed oil.
Wow. So it wasn't just a fad. No, that's super cool.
It probably helped with confidence too, right?
Yeah, social confidence. Again, if you're stuck in your own head ruminating in a social environment, that's just going to hold you back big time.
Well, have you yourself gone into the side of like psilocybin and anything within that? Like, do you know much about other benefits that psilocybin has, and do you mess with that stuff much?
Out of all the things that I've tried, I mean, we're talking like 200 plus or more different compounds. Like, I've been really cautious with psychedelics, because I know which path it can send you down, and I'm aware of like becoming too spiritual, I guess, in a sense, and losing my discipline and motivation, which I pride myself on, and being very focused and disciplined.
Yeah.
But I still see them as powerful modalities, and I definitely have seen, like huge benefits with some of my friends and the clinical trials. Like, I'm just so excited to see more research there.
What's kind of the craziest thing that you've seen that that kind of just really blew your mind? It sounds like you're really fascinated by all this stuff, but like, was there kind of like one thing over the last couple of years where you're like, fuck man, I'd never thought that was possible?
Geez, that's a good question. Well, this is a really good question. So what happened is I actually experimented with, so it was the same medicine that killed, was it Socrates or Hippocrates? Socrates. So Socrates was poisoned by a plant known as conium or conium maculatum. And I didn't use the herbal extract. I didn't want to try it, but it's used in homeopathic medicine. And again, a lot of people will, as soon as I mention the word homeopathy, there's going to be people say, it's all placebo, it's BS, it doesn't work, and all that sort of stuff. And I was always like that. I was always skeptical of homeopathy. But when I did use conium, it gave me some really weird side effects. First of all, the first side effect that I noted was like my face just started twitching. Like I just got some really weird spasms and things around my face. And then I felt like my fear response was like massively increased. Like I was so scared of just everything. So that wasn't a pleasant experience.
Why did you choose to do that?
Because if you look at the applications for that medicine, it's actually used to treat like dizziness and like low blood pressure, which I was sort of experiencing at the time. I was getting dizzy. Turned out to be just iron deficiency. But yeah, that was crazy.
All right.
What's something I could take? I'm about to go hit the gym in a couple minutes here. What's something I can utilize pre-workout that may assist in making me stronger? Have you seen some supplements that like literally can improve strength?
Well, acutely, if we're looking for something that can acutely increase strength, we do want to increase the sympathetic nervous system. So this is one of the reasons why acutely Anavar and even Trenbolone can really ramp up strength, because it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. So I would lean towards something acutely, some sort of stimulant. I don't know what you have on standby, but yeah.
I just kind of was more referring to like, are there things that we can take to, I guess, kind of trigger or warm up our central nervous system, or get our central nervous system more heightened for the workout in a safe fashion?
You could always lean towards something I've been playing around with is inhaling peppermint. I've got like a peppermint oil it's not a vape, but it's actually an inhaler. And that acutely really does wake up the brain and could be beneficial, pre-workout, because it's very fast acting. You don't have to wait like 30 minutes for it to kick in.
Awesome.
Very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find you?
Yeah, they can check out my YouTube channel, Boost Your Biology, and also Instagram at ergogenic_health. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks again.
That was incredible.
You crushed us with tons of information. I got like this kind of mad scientist looking thing over here. I tried to write down a lot of stuff you were saying, so I'll have to go back and even listen to my own show, get some notes on everything. So thanks again for your time. Thanks for the information, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, gents.
Cool. Thank
See you later.
See ya.
Fuck, I did it again.
Yo, guys, just go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Then go follow him on IG, because just the sheer amount of just like
hundreds of videos
that honestly deserve way more views of just like things that we haven't really heard much about
talking
before.
about depression, anxiety, stress. I mean, look, man, what if these things assist a bit? I mean, that they're, I realize that like there's a kind of a yin and a yang to everything, right? But he's basically talking about like amino acids and supplements, and I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, everything will be linked in the YouTube description, as well as the podcast show notes on where you can subscribe to him and follow him.
And we talked a little bit about getting blood work done. So you guys know that we work with Merrick Health. It's directed by Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And if you guys are interested in getting your blood work done, which you should,
work done myself.
Yeah, I'm about to get my blood work done in about a week.
Again?
Because I'm doing that Phaedogia agrestis and Tonkat, so I need to see how my test and DHT and all that stuff has changed potentially.
See what happened with it. I also am very curious of like, where does someone go after, you utilize stuff for a bit? Do your levels, do they crash down, or do they come down slow, or it's just very, very curious just to kind of see how that works out. And also, like, I guess before you get the test done, have you noticed anything? Have you noticed any improvements in strength, or any improvements in? You're kind of always improving, so it's kind of hard to say. But like, have you? Like I think that people think they're gonna like get their testosterone checked. They're gonna take some of these supplements that supposedly raise your testosterone, and their testosterone is going to go from 600 to 1200, and they're going to feel really fucking strong. But I don't think it works that way. But I don't know. Yeah,
to be perfectly honest, I haven't felt a crazy difference by taking these like 600 milligrams of Phaedogia and 400 milligrams of Tonkat every day. I haven't felt a massive difference. Maybe I do feel, I don't know. I haven't felt anything that's like, oh, this is life-changing for me. But also I did have good habits as far as sleep, getting sun, taking walks, good nutrition. So I do feel that maybe there could be a good little boost, but nothing that's changing my life.
Right. So. Could be one of those things, I guess, where you're just like, oh, I'm going to take this for this period of time because I'm going to induce more stress because I'm going to train a little harder and I'm going to do A, B, and C. And then when you're not doing those things, maybe you cut back on some of these things. I'm not sure. I don't know how to, I guess it sounds great to hear people talk about the practice of taking them, but I don't know what the practice of not taking them looks like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
I will. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. And again, because he needs more subscribers, make sure you guys subscribe to Lucas's channel. Links will be down below in the YouTube description, as well as the podcast show notes. Make sure you guys let him know that we sent you guys there. And please follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. Oh, and shout out and thank you to Viori for sponsoring today's episode. That's VUORI.com/power project to save 20% off your first order at viori.com. And my Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z, at the Andrew Z on TikTok, and Nsima, where you be.
How can they get Merrick?
Oh, my bad. And merrickhealth.com/power project for the Power Project panel. Or if you just want to be like Nsima and just go get your test tested at checkout, you can use promo code POWER15. I have to check that out. I think it's POWER15, isn't it? It's been a while, okay? Caffeine withdrawals are happening right as we speak.
It'll be in the description.
POWER15 for 15% off all of your labs. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, so make sure you guys do that ASAP. And links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Thank you, Nsima. Where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
if you go over to mindbullet.com, you can actually order your Mind Bullet with a credit card nowadays.
Really? Hell yeah.
So check it out. Before you get mad at me, you have to understand that it's still a little tricky to be able to do it. And so the program that you're going to be going through, they're going to want you to like sign up, and so you do have to go through some extra hoops. But the way that it works is you're able to basically purchase a gift card. And then with that gift card, you'll be able to purchase your Kratom as if it's just a normal credit card. And then you could probably use that for other things that you may get that don't receive a normal payment. So there you go. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.